What do I feel like playing? Nah. Wait. I've got it. Ah, fuck. Right, open up Steam. Where are we? Yep, here we go. The hit game Among Us. Wait, what the fuck is this? Manhunt. Yeah, let's send it. Hey cunts, welcome back to the channel where today we're going to be discussing a game you may know due to some light controversy back in the day. That game is Rockstar's Manhunt. So what I want to discuss today is what I liked about the game, what I didn't, and also was it deserving of being banned here in Australia and in other countries around the world. Anyway, without further ado, come with me on a journey full of laughable laws, gruesome gaming, and taboo topics. This is a game that came out all the way back in 2003 on the Sony PlayStation and the PC, with a Microsoft Xbox version coming later in 2004. For those of you who don't know, it's a third-person stealth, horror, and action-adventure game developed by Rockstar North and published by Rockstar Games. In Manhunt, you play as protagonist James Earl Cash, a death row inmate freed from your death sentence by ex-movie producer and current snuff film producer Lionel Starkweather. And I know this game came out 20 fucking years ago, but I'm still gonna put a spoiler warning here, because I only played it like a few weeks ago, so if you don't want any spoilers for this and you want to play it fresh, which I recommend, skip to the time card right now. In return for being spared, you're forced to partake in a series of snuff films for Starkweather's enjoyment, with the promise being that you'll be freed should you survive. These snuff films are what make up Manhunt's levels, or scenes as they're called in this game. Each usually involves Cash going around the city killing various gang members or police later on as well. Eventually down the track, Starkweather betrays Cash and sort of puts him into a scene where he expects him to die, but obviously Cash defies all odds, breaks out and hunts him down for his revenge. After some evasion of the authorities, you manage to find Starkweather, make your way through his private Cerberus military, and carve him open with a chainsaw. So there's obviously more to the story than that, it's just a really brief overview, but even if you skipped that spoiler warning and got basically the whole story spoiled for you, I'd still recommend you go and play the game, it's really great. So this part here is the whole reason I wanted to do this video originally, because this one's a bit of a funny one for Australia because it was actually classified and released under the MA15+ rating here originally, which at the time was our most mature rating, at least for video games. It actually wouldn't be until almost 10 years later in 2013 when we'd actually get an R18+ rating for games. Not that that's fucking helped us at all, but I digress. After the game's initial rating and subsequent release on the 28th of November 2003, it was actually sold for almost a full year. That is, until the Western Australian Minister for Justice, Michelle Roberts, called for a reclassification of the game due to its suspected involvement in a murder in the UK, which local police later contested. Following the denied classification this time around, copies were to be pulled from store shelves and all marketing around the game was to cease. Some states in Australia were even warning potential sellers and rental stores that they could face up to 2 years in prison and/or fines up to $24,000 if caught distributing the prohibited title. Let's just hold up a second there. I just want to put this into perspective. We've got some more stats here. In the same state that those figures are pulled from, that being Victoria, the fines associated with selling an underage person alcohol in 2003, which in Australia is under 18 years old, was up to $19,343 for a licensed premises, which seems very specific. This has since increased, and the latest data I can find from the Victorian government's website is now $21,809. So still under the initial fine for selling someone, and not even just a minor, a prohibited video game. If that isn't fucking ridiculous, I don't know what is. Now I guess the likelihood of someone being hit with the maximum penalty for this sort of thing is really unlikely, and from what I can find online, no one was actually ever charged with any of this, so I don't know, it just seems really harsh for something I would argue is so minor. It's worth noting that Manhunt was also banned in New Zealand much earlier in December 2003, with just possession of the game being a punishable offence. Copies of Manhunt were also reportedly confiscated in Germany, from what I could find, due to violations in a law they have in place regarding the representation of violence in media. Now this sort of delves into my opinion on the matter, but I believe adults should be able to choose for themselves what sort of media they consume, and I saw a lot of arguments around, I don't want children consuming this sort of content. Well, it's not really meant for children. The whole rating system is in place for that reason, and I just don't get why this level of scrutiny is applied to video games but not other media like movies or TV shows. So here's another very important part. Is the game actually any good? And I'd say I really enjoyed it way more than I expected to, which is a real shame because that means a lot of people missed out on playing it here. So I played the Steam version of this game on PC, and I will say straight out of the gate, I did have to patch the game to actually get it working because it's quite old. And thank you to Takaroa in my Discord for sorting me out with that. But I would say it's worth the effort. And I did choose to play on mouse and keyboard, which ended up really being a good idea because the controls on controller are not real good. And I do actually own a copy of this game on PS2, and I did play it for this video. And all I'll say about the console version is this: don't do it, it's not worth it, just play it on PC, the controls are fucking awful. And then on top of that, on PC you obviously get the better resolution, smoother controls, so I mean it's a no-brainer for me at least. I should also note that I haven't actually played the original Xbox version either, so I can't say if the controls are any better, but it's still a controller, so I would have to imagine it's not. One thing I absolutely can't fault Manhunt on is its masterfully crafted atmosphere. This game truly has a tone and level of suspense unlike most other games. It's truly creepy and terrifying for reasons unlike any other game I've ever played. A combination of the dialogue that the hunters spew, the unhinged dialogue from the director, and just this crusty, grungy sort of feel to cast the city as a whole. It's just like this perfect storm of just filth. Now don't get me wrong, I've definitely played games way more terrifying than this. Manhunt just has this sort of sick, I want to say charm, that sets it apart from the rest. Another thing that I really enjoyed about Manhunt is the story. I mean, there's not a ton of it, but what's there is really interesting. I'm a little disappointed there wasn't much closure at the end, but I don't think it's that sort of game, if that makes sense. Manhunt's story is definitely a unique one in the video game space, and that's mainly due to the themes, I think. So on to difficulties, I played Manhunt on Fetish difficulty, which is the lowest of the two, the other being Hardcore. Even playing on the lowest though, I felt like the game had a nice difficulty spike. As the game gets you more comfortable, it starts to add more enemies, with more dangerous weapons and puts save points further apart. I mean, this is pretty standard stuff, but the ramp up in difficulty is really well done. Towards the end, I'd be spending like an hour and a half in each of the levels, and I wouldn't even care. And this is one of those few games where I can die, lose 2 hours of progress, and not even care, just jump straight back in. It's just that good of a game. Overall, I'd say I really enjoyed Manhunt more than I thought I was going to originally. It holds up surprisingly well on PC, and if you haven't played it already, I'd definitely recommend it. Now, do I see why the game was banned? No, not really. I give this game a chef's kiss badge of approval. I can see the general themes are controversial, and I think they're meant to be, but I don't think it warrants a ban. I just think the general reasons why it's banned here in Australia are pretty weak. So this video is very different from what I usually do, and I'd say it's easily the one I've spent the most time on in recent times at least. From actually playing the game to researching info around the ban, I'd say I poured a lot of passion into this one. I'd really appreciate it if you dropped a like, and make sure to let me know in the comments what your experience with Manhunt is, or if you plan on playing it now after this video. If you enjoy what you see here, consider dropping me a follow on Twitch as well. We're live over there every Wednesday, 8:30 PM Australian Eastern Standard or Daylight Savings Time, depending on the time of year. We're always up for a chat over there, always doing a bit of shenanigans. At the moment we're playing Returnal on the PS5, so drop by, have a chat, it's always a good time. And I really appreciate it if you've made it to the end here, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day to watch this. It really means a lot to me. Thank you. Anyway, keep being good cunts, and I'll catch you in the next video.